Tom Hauser here with another midweek blessing. Hey, we're nearing the end of our second read through Ephesians, and it occurred to me as I read today's passage that while it's beautiful, all that God has done for us, and that we've been adopted as His sons or His daughters, that He lavishes His kindness and grace on us, all those things are awesome. And this way of living in chapters 4, 5, and 6 that Paul lays out is just a beautiful way of living, of this list of things we really ought to stop doing and a list of things we ought to start doing instead. This way that God has designed a marriage between a husband and a wife to look. Parents and kids, what that relationship is supposed to look like, that's beautiful. Yesterday's passage about slaves and masters, or employees and employers, what that's supposed to look like, and that's beautiful. And while those things are all beautiful, what's also true is that they're really hard, like really, really hard. And I'm grateful that this morning's passage gives us some hope in the midst of that difficulty. It explains the difficulty, and it gives us hope in the midst of the difficulty. Let me read just the first part of it to you here. In Ephesians chapter 6, starting in verse 10, Paul writes this: "A final word, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places." Paul reminds us that the reason this is so hard is not only because our flesh fights against us, not only because we have this internal battle with ourselves about wanting to do what's good and not wanting to do what's good, and it's back and forth, but it's also difficult because there is an unseen battle around us that is much more real, much bigger than any flesh and blood battle we'd have with ourselves or with other human beings. And so the reason it's so hard is because there's an enemy fighting against us. And then he goes on to say in the next couple verses what kind of armor we need, what kind of weaponry we need to fight that battle and stay standing firm, to win the battle. We need peace, and we need truth, and we need salvation, all these things that we need to put on to fight the battle in God's power, not our own power. So my encouragement to me this week, my encouragement to you this week, is to just ask the Lord to give you eyes to see the spiritual battle that's going on around you, to stop trying to fight that battle in your own strength, and to put on these things that we need in order to fight and win. But we'll only fight the battle, we'll only win the battle if we remember what the actual battle is, which is a battle that's of a spiritual nature, not of a flesh and blood nature. That we're not battling other people, we're really battling spiritual powers that are against us, an enemy that wants the worst for us and not the best. Keep it in mind this week. Put on truth, put on peace. Read